In order to win the war against Ukraine, Russia needs to destroy the Kiev neo-Nazi regime in order to then decide the fate of the country, said Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council Dmitry Medvedev, speaking at the marathon of the Znanie Society. Also, according to him, it is necessary to carry out denazification not only in Ukraine but also in all European countries where there are signs of Nazism ideology. This work must be carried out decisively through joint actions of different countries, and those who do not want to do this must be directly labelled as accomplices of Nazism. This applies to any country in Europe and in the world, Medvedev said. After the end of the war in Ukraine, the Deputy Chairman of the Security Council proposed creating an international tribunal similar to Nuremberg, which would give a legal assessment to all those who supported Kiev. According to him, the International Criminal Court in The Hague, which issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin, will not be able to cope with this role. The international community needs to create a new structure, an alternative to the Hague Court, and its jurisdiction should be extended to crimes of genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, as well as acts of terrorism, Medvedev noted. At the same time, he admitted that other countries would refuse to participate in this. Then, according to the Deputy Chairman of the Security Council, it would be necessary to hold a new Nuremberg trial in Russian courts. This is what happened after the Great Patriotic War. During more than 24 open trials in 1943, 1944, and up until 1949, facts of the Nazis' brutal crimes were revealed and harsh sentences were handed down to the guilty, Medvedev concluded. Before this, the Deputy Chairman of the Security Council accused the future Chancellor of Germany and the head of the Christian Democratic Union, Friedrich Merz, of Nazism. The reason was Merz's words after his readiness to transfer long-range Taurus missiles to Kyiv. Medvedev also called for punishing Europe, which, according to him, tore up the peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul and imposed sanctions against Moscow. It was a bloodthirsty Europe that fed all the most rabid demons of war without regard for the losses of the parties to the conflict, and therefore Europe must be punished by all means available to us, political, economic, and all sorts of hybrid ones, Medvedev emphasized. According to him, Russia needs to help any destructive processes in Europe, including supporting pogromists and migrants committing atrocities. At the same time, Russian diplomats distanced themselves from the words of the Deputy Chairman of the Security Council. For example, the Russian ambassador to Great Britain, Andrei Kelin, explained in an interview with the BBC that Medvedev's statements do not reflect the official position of the Kremlin. Medvedev says what he thinks, but he does this as a private person, not as a representative of the authorities. Chinese prisoners of war Wang Guangjun and Zhang Renbo spoke about their service in the Russian army and pointed out an advantage Ukraine's armed forces have in the war. They shared this in the Mosechuk Plus program. The prisoners from China Wang Guangjun and Zhang Renbo talked about their experience serving in the Russian army and highlighted the strengths of Ukraine's armed forces. In fact, we don't experience oppression or restrictions. The food is good, medical care is accessible. I concluded for myself that the logistic support for the Ukrainian army is much better than for the Russians, Zhang Renbo emphasized. He also quoted one of the military leaders saying that victory in war depends on strong logistics. He added that this is why he believes in Ukraine's victory. The prisoner admitted he signed a contract with the Russian army because he hoped for a significantly higher salary than he earned in China. According to him, the offered amount was twice his usual income. He said the first payment was around $24,000 with a promise of monthly payments of up to $3,000. However, the prisoners reported that they never received the promised money for their service in the Russian army and their accounts were blocked. The money is blocked, the account is blocked, so we cannot use it. We don't know whether Russia did this, but from the beginning, when we arrived here, we have been spending our own money, said Guangjun. Recall two Chinese citizens, Zhang Renbo and Wang Guangjun, who fought for Russia's army and were captured by Ukraine's defense forces, revealed how Russia recruits foreigners. The Chinese prisoners claimed that Russia recruits foreigners through intermediaries offering jobs not related to military service. One of the prisoners wanted a job in rehabilitation but ended up in the military. He stated that he had a job in China but lost it during the coronavirus pandemic and was looking for a new option. I initially refused to participate in combat but was later sent to the front, said Zhang Renbo. Meanwhile, Wang Guangjun said that he was not given details about his contract with the Russian armed forces, including the responsibilities and compensation. He was initially offered a job as a builder. All documents were in Russian, and communication was through gestures. They showed us signs of what we needed to do. The situation was, I received a card with 200,000 rubles, but I couldn't use the card. Periodically, the Russians took the card to spend money on fuel and power banks, said Zhang Renbo. Zhang Renbo also described how he was captured. He said that on December the 20th, 2024, he arrived in Moscow, then went to Rostov, and then to temporarily occupied Donetsk, where he moved from bunker to bunker for about a month and communicated with soldiers under constant shelling. On April the 5th, he was captured. Both prisoners claimed that they supposedly did not kill Ukrainian soldiers during combat because they weren't on the front line for a long time.